May 23rd, 2013. From El Cajon, California, this is episode 20 of You Can Bet on That. Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. I'm Mark Duvall, and as usual, I'm here with Dr. Mike.
Hello.
So, Mike, do you think I'm a bad father?
Yeah, well, that's a loaded question, my friend. That is loaded.
Let me tell you a story, and then you can decide.
Right.
So, my son, my 9-year-old son, this last weekend, wanted to go to a park. Okay. And we've got this, what we do when he wants to go to a park, we have this kind of little fun thing where we get in the car and he takes the GPS and he searches for parks. Uh-huh. And he likes to go to like parks that he's never been to before, right?
Right.
So he programs for this park and said, okay, here we go. So we start driving and it's kind of out in the boonies. It was a good, like 10 miles away or whatever, kind of out in the wilderness area.
Okay.
And so we're driving through these back roads and it's like an open reserve kind of park, a park with like hiking, that kind of thing. So we're driving along, and finally we get to a gate, a private property gate, and we just can't go any further. It's like, well, the GPS doesn't always know about these roads, right?
Right.
So I'm looking where we are, and we're pretty close to Barona Casino.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Which is one of the tribal casinos out there, right? Yeah. And I'm thinking, I've got some Kentucky Derby tickets that I need to cash in, some winning tickets.
Oh God! So you left your son in the car?
No. That'd be the best story.
Yeah, maybe you just locked him in the car.
I said, let's go to the casino and I'll get you a soda, and just we'll go inside and you just wait for me while I go get these tickets.
Yeah.
So he wanted a root beer, so okay, he'll go for that. So we drove up to Barona, and there's a food court there,
right?
That's very close to the off-track betting,
right? Yeah, oh yeah, very close.
Yeah. So I thought, well, I'll just plunk him down at a table there,
right,
and give him a root beer, and then go cash my tickets. Yeah. So I'd be able to see him the whole time, and
all the tables were full.
No,
it's usually crowded.
No, there was an empty table there, right? Okay. So I was able to put him down, and I got him his soda, got him a root beer. Said, okay, stay here. Don't do anything. If somebody tries to steal you, just scream. Yeah. There are people everywhere. I mean, it's
right.
So I went in and cashed in the tickets, and then okay, let's head on home. But as I was doing, I'm thinking, am I like those people that drive to the casino and lock the kids in the car and go play blackjack for like 5-6 hours?
No, you're not that bad. That's not that bad a story. Now, when my wife listens to this, she's gonna, say, "Oh, that's terrible. Stop associating with that guy."
Well, my wife said, "This is something Dr. Mike hasn't even done."
Yeah, right, exactly. Although I will say, and this is the God's honest truth, after we finish one of these podcasts and you load it and everything, my daughters lay in bed and listen to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're 7 and 9. They lay in bed and listen to a podcast about gambling. And, I'd like to think they just want to hear my voice, but there's a big part of me that wants to believe that they're trying to learn craps and that this is their way of getting involved. I'm going to get yelled at by my wife about that, too.
About teaching them that. Well, at least we're keeping it clean since your daughters are listening. Yeah, right. At least it's a
family show.
It's a family show about gambling. That's right. All right. So in the news, we wanted to talk about this. Phil Ivey, I think this was back in October, was playing Punto Banco, which is just baccarat. A lot of the news reports, you'll say it shows Punto Banco. That's just baccarat is what we call it here in the United States. But back in October, he won £7.5 million at the Crockford's Casino in London.
It's like $15 million.
Yeah, it's huge, right? Mm-hmm. And when the story came out, the story was that the casino was refusing to pay him, that they were just going to refund, the money that he invested and not give him his winnings. Huh. And at the time, people were kind of outraged, like, well, what are you talking about, right? He's a respected poker player, Phil Ivey. Why won't you pay him, right? Well, a little more information came out here within the last couple of weeks. Now, let's talk about baccarat real quick. Baccarat is a very popular game with high rollers. It's a simple game in that there isn't a lot of betting that goes on.
It's kind of funny that it really is exclusively for high rollers. You'll see, I mean, they'll even have the baccarat tables in a special high roller area.
Oh, yeah.
Why? Because it's such a simple game.
I don't see the appeal, but I'll tell you, the bottom line for a lot of casinos sometimes rides on baccarat.
Right.
That can swing a month's worth of revenue, one way or the other for a casino.
Sure.
But for whatever reason, it's very popular with high rollers, and it's a simple game. There are two card hands get dealt. One is called the player's hand, and one is called the banker's hand. Now, the player's hand is not dealt to any players at the table.
Right. It's a misnomer, really.
Yeah.
Because it's not really your hand.
Right. They're just two hands that are dealt. One is called player hand. The other is called the banker's hand. And everybody who's playing at the table before the cards are dealt just bets on the player or the banker. That's their choice of the two. And the idea is to get closest to 9. You add up the cards together, and whoever's closer to 9 wins, the player's hand or the banker's hand. And if the total goes over 9, like if you have a 9 and a 7, you just subtract 10 from it. So that a 9 and a 7 would be 6.
6. Yeah.
And I don't want to talk about the other intricacies of baccarat because the player or the banker will take an additional card depending on a lot of factors.
Which the actual players, the people betting, have no control over.
No control. So it is a mindless game.
Right. You just make a decision.
Right.
And that's it.
So, and it's even though I think it's incredibly boring.
I've played it a few times, and 5 minutes you're just bored to death.
Yeah. But anyway, it does have a very small house edge. In fact, when you're betting on the player, I think it's about 1.06% house edge, which is smaller than the pass line or even the don't pass in craps. So there's a very small house edge. Well, anyway, Phil Ivey was over there at this London casino, and he used something called edge sorting to win at the game. Now, what is edge sorting?
Yeah, I've all my years, until you mentioned that, I didn't know what edge sorting was.
Well, I only found out about it within the last 6 months.
Yeah,
I knew about it before this story came out, but here's how edge sorting works. So a deck of cards, when it comes from the manufacturer, the back of a card, all the cards, the backs should look exactly the same. And if you take one of the cards that's face down and you rotate it 180 degrees, it should look exactly the same.
Right.
Right? Where, 180 degree turn, it should look exactly the same. And I'm talking about cards that they use in casinos, not like, if you go on vacation and welcome to Florida card that's printed.
Right.
Obviously, if you turn that 180 degrees, it looks different.
Right, sure.
But a real card used in casino, if you turn it 180 degrees, it should look different. Well, it turns out that a lot of these cards, even ones that are manufactured for casinos, if you turn it 180 degrees, there's a slight difference. And Mike and I are looking, I got out a deck of bicycle cards, which are, like the most popular card for home games, that kind of thing. And Mike, take a look at this. You can see that on this, we're looking at like the left edge. The left edge white part is smaller than the right edge part a little bit. And the top and bottom, you can see it's quite a bit different.
Right, sure.
So here's a card, a bicycle card, where if it's turned 180 degrees, it looks different. Right. So here's what Phil Ivey was doing. He was there with a woman, apparently some Chinese woman. This is kind of unsubstantiated, but a Chinese woman who supposedly had been banned from some other casinos for doing this same thing. What they would do is they would ask the dealer to rotate certain cards 180 degrees. Okay? During the course of a deal.
So thus remembering which card.
Right. So it was putting memory basically into the deck. Right. Probably what they did was they asked the dealer to rotate any card that was a 6, 7, 8, or 9. We'll talk about this in a moment, why they would choose those cards.
Right.
So the dealer complied. They said, "Oh, we're superstitious.
Yeah.
So can you turn the card that way? We're superstitious. Turn the card that way." And then the dealer would put all the cards the same way into the shuffle machine, and the shuffle machine doesn't rotate the cards at all, just shuffles them.
Shuffles
right?
Right.
And so what would happen is when they were once the deck had been shuffled again, Phil Ivey could see not the 4 cards that were going to be dealt, but he could see the top card that was going to be dealt, right? And the top card would go to the player, right? Okay. So if the top card was a 6, 7, 8, or 9, he would bet on the player before the cards were dealt, but he could see that first card.
Increasing his chances of getting a 9.
Right, or closest to 9, right. And if the first card was a 0 is like a 10 or a face card, a 0, ace, 2, 3, 4, or 5, he would bet on the banker. And knowing that first card gave him an advantage of over 6 3/4%.
Wow.
I mean, it was that big. And that's what he did the whole time. And I don't know how they found out that he did this, but that's what he did, and that's how he made his money.
Yeah, they probably started looking at tapes and see all the cards being turned.
Right.
And wondered, like, what's going on here. So
that's how he made the money. So now he's suing to get the money. And the question in the courts becomes, did he cheat, I guess, is, I don't know what the laws are there. But, for just on the surface, I don't think he cheated. I think he took advantage of a situation.
Right. Yeah, there's a real gray line there. Yeah. And I agree with you. I think he just took advantage of a situation, and that's their fault.
He had to do 2 things. He had to find decks, a shoe where you could use edge sorting, where it was cut poorly, and a dealer willing to go along with supposedly these eccentrics, who were superstitious about gambling.
Yeah, well, and it all boils down to it's their fault. It's the casino's fault because, number one, they should have a policy with their dealers. No, we don't do any. You do the same kind of shuffle every time.
Right, we're not turning cards.
We're not turning cards. We're not doing any of this. And if somebody asks to say, "Oh no, we don't allow that," sorry, and they'll go away if they want.
Right,
and that's number one. And number two, if you're really worried about edge sorting, make sure your decks are all perfect.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Because, we don't play with bicycle cards at our home game. We actually have some nice plastic cards, some chem cards. And I was looking at those and man, those are perfect. Yeah. I can't, there's nothing as far as I can tell.
Right. So they can get perfect decks.
Yeah. And I imagine a lot of casinos do have decks where they're cut pretty well. And, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets his money. I'm rooting for him. I can understand people might not be and thinking that he cheated, but I kind of look at it as he was taking an opportunity. The casino had, was dealing the game the right way. I don't think he cheated. He took advantage of a situation.
You know what? It'd be like if a dealer dealing blackjack accidentally exposed one of their cards, not knowing it.
Right.
Say flipped it up, and you just happened to be watching them deal, and you saw it, and you knew that they had a 6 down.
Right.
And you had, like 13, and they had a 10 up.
Right.
And you said to yourself, well, normally against that 10 I'd hit.
Right.
And I'll go ahead and do that because, no way you'd do that, right? You'd say, well, I know they have a 6 down. I'm going to stay with my 13.
Sure.
So it's not really cheating if they made an error.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just taking advantage of the situation a little bit, but I don't consider that cheating.
Yeah. So obviously the casino doesn't feel the same way, but we'll see. And again, this is English court, so who knows how it'll turn out, but I'm kind of pulling for Phil Ivey.
Yeah, I think casinos have enough of an edge overall.
Yeah. So this was kind of funny. We've been laughing about this. We get a lot of offers from Caesars Total Rewards. And we go to Harrah's Rincon, which is a close casino to us, and they give away quite a lot of things. We've gotten,
a lot of stuff,
bags and teapots, and
they're giving away a popcorn maker here coming up.
That's right, yeah.
And some of the gifts have been nice, nice set of towels, things like that.
Right. Some have been, just kind of
and these
okay.
And these are gifts they give to like everybody. I mean, basically you have to play for 10 minutes and you get a gift.
Right.
7 Stars gets some really nice gifts, but that's just specific to them.
We get a flyer probably once a week announcing some kind of giveaway, something like that. So this was funny. We both Mike and I got this in the mail. It says, for Harrah's Rincon, earn 10 tier credits between 6 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. on Friday, May 31st, and receive a complimentary 12-pack of Pepsi.
Well, 12.
Not a 6-pack.
No, 12-pack.
A 12-pack of Pepsi. And we have been laughing about this because, first of all, usually the giveaway is certainly for Diamond members and 7 stars are just free. But no, you've got to earn 10 tier credits on May 31st.
Yeah. And mine, what's funny is a lot of these giveaways, if you're sometimes a Diamond, but definitely if you're Gold or something, you have to earn a certain amount of tier credits to get it, right? But 7 stars, it's always free. You just
it's like
show up and they just hand it to you. I still have to, on my 7 star thing, earn 10 tier credits to get my 12-pack of Pepsi.
The funniest thing about that, it's not the fact that they're giving away Pepsi. I mean, great. I wouldn't mind if I showed at the casino, oh, we're giving away 12 packs. Oh, I'll take one. But this is a nice flyer that we got in the mail, printed up, right? It's not a crummy piece of paper. They spent all this money sending out flyers, trying to attract people to the casino with promises of soda.
The funny thing is it probably costs more to make the flyer and send it out than all the costs for the Pepsi.
Exactly. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. Maybe it's more of an ad for Pepsi than anything else. Maybe Pepsi paid them.
Well, that's true. Maybe Pepsi gave it away free to them. So they just,
I think what they should do is that for every 10 tier credits you earn, you get a 12 pack. So at the end of the night, you'd have 100 12 packs, something like that, right?
I'm trying to carry them out to the car, 20 at a time. Oh, God.
So I don't know. Are we going to go out for this on a Friday?
Well, if we happen to be there, I'll take the 12 pack home, even though I'm not a big Pepsi drinker. Yeah. But I certainly wouldn't go out of my way to get a 12-pack of Pepsi.
Oh, it's so funny.
So what does a 12-pack of Pepsi cost now? About?
Oh, if on sale, you can get it for like $2.50.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's like giving you $2. Yeah. We'll give you a 12-pack of Pepsi or $2 cash. Your choice.
$2 free play.
Yeah, $2 free play.
They won't give you cash, right?
You can't even do one pull of the slot machine. You got to put $1 of your own in to get.
All right. Well, we'll let you know if we go up for that Pepsi giveaway, everybody. We'll get on Facebook. We'll tell the world.
Oh, it'll probably be packed. You know that, right? We'll probably end up going that night for some reason. It'll be packed and everyone will be lugging around a 12-pack of Pepsi, and somebody will inevitably drop one and a can will explode. There'll be a big wet spot somewhere.
Some more news we were going to talk about. So the TV show Vegas that was on CBS got canceled after just one season. I can't say I'm surprised. Did you continue to watch it?
We watched, maybe the first 3 or 4 episodes, if that, and then we kind of faded out. Yeah. The time slot wasn't good.
Right.
I didn't think.
Yeah. Well, and I think they moved it to like Friday nights too, where it kind of died. Right.
If you get moved to Friday, any TV show, that's the death. Or Saturday, Friday night or Saturday night.
Well, yeah, I'm not too surprised. I still have some on the DVR I need to watch, but I think the problem was there wasn't a lot of Vegas-y stuff. There wasn't a lot of, gambling. There was mob stuff that was kind of interesting, but to me, the biggest problem was they had these overarching storylines with the mob and the sheriff and everything, but then every episode would also have a self-contained crime that they would solve within that episode.
Right.
And those were boring.
Those were very boring.
Yeah, that was
very
not
boring.
Yeah. And
think about it. You're used to watching like NCIS or CSI.
Right.
And there's twists to those crimes. They're interesting. These were very rudimentary.
Yeah.
Because they're supposed to be set in the
early 60s.
Yeah. So it's not like there's a whole team that comes out and does some forensic, studying or something. It was just like, he wore a size 9 shoe and we'll look for some size 9 guys.
Yeah. So anyway, Vegas came and gone. So it's too bad it didn't live up more to its potential.
Right.
And I don't know. I may end up watching the rest of the episodes. We'll see if I have time. All right. So now it's time for our poker home games segment. This is the segment where we talk about poker games that you won't see in a casino, but that you might play at a home game with your buddies. And this episode, we're going to talk about No Peeky. This is a pretty popular home game.
Yeah, I think it's played quite a bit.
Yeah. And here's the way it works. Everybody gets 7 cards dealt down that they cannot look at. Right?
Right.
And that's the name No Peeky. So at the beginning, nobody can look at their cards. And we don't have this rule, but some games have rules where if like somebody inadvertently looks at their cards, they have to match the pot and fold or something like that. But we don't have a rule like that.
We usually, if you screw up and turn over 2 instead of 1, it's just like, it's really to your disadvantage, kind of.
I guess.
I don't know.
Well, here's the way that
depends on how good your hand is.
Right. Here's the way that it works. Typically, in no Peeky, what you'll do, once everybody has their 7 cards, the dealer will flip up like the top card in the deck. And whatever card that is, starting with the player to the dealer's left, that player will start turning over his cards until he has that initial card beat. So in other words, if the dealer turns over a 7, the first player has to flip over his cards until he has a 7 beat. So if he flips over like a 3, he doesn't have 7 beat,
right.
And then a 6, and then a 9. Oh, now he's got a 9 out there. He's got the 7 beat. Or if his first card is an ace, he's got the 7 beat, and all flipping stops.
Right.
And there's a betting round. And then it moves to the next player, who has to start turning over his cards until he has the previous player's hand beat. And it continues like that. As soon as somebody turns over a card and they've beaten the player to their right, then there's a betting round.
Right.
And so, just as some examples here, let's say again that first card is a 7, and the first player turns over an ace, so we have a betting round, and the next player turns over a 3 and a 6, and then another 3. He has a pair of 3s now. That beats an ace.
Right.
Right? And it's as simple as that. And it just continues around until basically all the cards are revealed, and whoever has the best 5-card poker hand wins.
Right. It's a funny game because it can go where, everyone's seen 1 card.
Right.
Right. Or a couple maybe seen 2. Or it can go where the first guy turns over an ace and the next guy's first 2 cards are a pair of kings. Right. And then the next 3 guys are out because they can't even beat a pair of kings.
It is funny, yeah.
Yeah, you either get a lot of betting or no betting.
Right. And that brings up an interesting point too. Let's say somebody's got a pair of kings, right? And then the next player continues to ends up turning over all 7 of his cards, and he never beats that pair of kings. Mm-hmm. Do you have a betting round? I like to play where you do.
I think you should.
I think you should too. But I know in our home game for years, we would not have a betting round. Somebody would say, he didn't beat the pair of kings, no betting round.
Well, the thing about it is the guy who has a pair of kings, he wants a betting round.
Yeah.
Because he's got a good hand.
Right. And you could go all the way around. Nobody beats a pair of kings, and then he doesn't make any money.
Right. Exactly. So that's why I think you need a betting round.
Yeah. So it's really a very simple game. Now, what's a good strategy? Well, it's kind of hard to tell. If you're the dealer, you're at a pretty big disadvantage because you won't even see a card.
Yeah, you might have to beat a straight.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's say you are the dealer, and before it gets to you, somebody's turned over a straight.
Right.
You might want to fold if you haven't seen any cards.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, especially if then again, if you've played where you bet after, you might have already made 4 bets.
That's what I'm saying, right? If there are like 7 players at the table, it's going to be 6 bets before, you even see one of your cards.
Right.
So, the idea is that, okay, when do you fold? If you haven't seen any cards, you want to fold if a really big hand comes up before you've seen any cards. Right. A straight, maybe even 3 of a kind.
Yeah, 7-card stud. 3 of a kind's are pretty powerful.
Right,
yeah,
it's a hard
2
one to
pair.
do, right?
A high 2 pair is a good hand.
Right, exactly. But if by the time it gets to you, all you've seen is pair of jacks or something like that, you might go for it. But
right.
It's a goofy game in this sense, because it keeps people in. But I can't tell you how many times we've played where nobody folds until they're absolutely beat.
Right.
Right. Till they flipped over all 7 of their cards and, they can't beat anybody,
they're just hoping that something hits. Right?
Yeah. So, as far as the strategy goes, I guess just, that's all I can say. If you see a big hand, maybe get out of the way. We like to play the game with a couple other wrinkles. Sometimes we'll play it with baseball rules. And we talked about baseball on a previous episode. But basically in baseball, 3s and 9s are wild. You have to pay a little extra to make a 3 wild. And if you get a 4, you get an extra card for a fee.
Which we would usually deal down. So it'd be like your bottom card.
Right, yeah. So it'd be maybe like the last one you flip over, right?
This game has a lot of weird little things. I was just laughing to myself because, you get your 7 cards down. how many people on the table take their 7 cards and shuffle them around, right?
Right.
Because it really does depend on what you get first and last. It changes the outcome of the game.
Yep.
And a lot of people will shuffle. I kind of like to shuffle mine. And
in the long run, it shouldn't matter.
Right.
That's one of the fun things about gambling
exactly.
is stupid things like that. So sometimes we'll play baseball rules. And of course, when you have wild cards, that makes for bigger hands. Mm-hmm. Another very popular, and I think you invented this one.
Yeah, maybe.
Is we play where the last card that a player has flipped over is wild for him and all others of the same rank.
That had been previously turned over.
Right. Now, when I say the last one flipped over, I don't mean the 7th card. I mean the last card at any time that he's flipped over.
Right.
So let me say why that might be different. Let's say you're playing and you flip over ace, 3, 3. You now have 4 aces, okay?
Right.
3s are wild for you. Now you go around the table and then suddenly somebody makes a straight flush. All right, you've got to flip another card. Now if you flip another card and it's like a 7, now 7s are wild for you.
You have a full house instead of a 4 of a kind.
Yeah, it's actually gotten worse. You're going to have to make a 5 of a kind or a better straight flush to beat this guy. So it's at any time, what's the last card you flipped over? Right. And so there are plenty of times where maybe those 4 aces end up winning.
Right.
Nobody else can beat the 4 aces. But if you had ended up having to turn over all 70 of your cards, all you'd have is the full house.
Right.
So in this case, the order really
matters.
Yeah.
And what I like about that, the best part about it is the first person, they turn over a deuce. Well, that's wild. They have an ace.
Right. That's
so
right.
So the second person has to turn over 2 cards. At least, right?
To beat an ace, yeah.
Because even if they turn over an ace, they've just got an ace. Right. So, they have to turn over 2 cards, and then they beat them automatically. It doesn't matter what they have.
Right, because now they have a pair no matter what.
They have a pair no matter what, right? Yeah. So it does give more betting. It's not a situation where the first guy turned over a king, and the second guy didn't have anything higher than a king. He goes through all of his cards, and we go to the third guy, right?
That's true. You're right. In that game,
people in.
You're right. The first player always just has an ace. The second player always just has at least a pair,
right?
And then it gets interesting on the third player and later. Yeah,
right.
And it does go a little bit further. And then you're not quite as it's not quite as painful to be further along in position, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's no Peeky. That's our poker home game for this episode. If any of you out there have a poker home game that you'd like us to talk about, please drop us a line at youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. So last episode we talked about Keno, and we'd mentioned that it was kind of a dying game, that there are a lot of casinos now that don't even have it anymore, especially some of the newer ones. And even at the places that do, you just don't see it as much. And a lot of it maybe is probably the overhead that it takes to run a live Keno game.
I'm sure the casino knows exactly what a game brings in.
Sure.
Each game on its own, what it brings in month to month, and how much it takes to run it. And it just boils down to do we want to use that space for something that's going to bring us X dollars when we can use it for something that brings us 2X.
Right. Even though Keno has a huge house edge, it's just not being played as much.
It's not played as much, right.
Although, again, we're talking about a live Keno game. I know there are a lot of people who like the video Keno, which is very little overhead. It's just a slot machine.
Interesting point just occurred to me about that. With slot machines, the nice thing about the slot machine, at least for the casino, is they can put multiple games on a slot machine, on the same machine, right? So that machine takes up a finite amount of space right there. But it can have Keno, it can have poker, it can have, it can have blackjack, right? I mean, it can have a lot of different games. So it appeals to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just like, you have to like a slot machine. You might just want to play Keno. You can sit there and play Keno.
Yeah. Well, it got us thinking about, when we're talking about Keno and how it's kind of a dying game, it got us thinking about other games that are dying or that are completely dead at casinos, things that we don't see anymore or see very rarely. So we thought we'd talk about some of those games this time. One that comes to mind certainly is the Sigma Derby. And for those who maybe aren't familiar with it or saw it years ago, it's basically a little mechanical horse racing game.
Yeah.
You put quarters in and bet on horses or bet on like an exacta of horses, and the odds would be posted before the race. And then, everybody sitting around this pretty big machine.
It's a huge machine.
Would sit and watch these horses go around the track.
It was like when you're at the fair and they have the horse race and you've got to take the little water gun and shoot, and you hit the target and your horse will move a little bit.
Yeah.
The better aim you are, the faster your horse moves.
Yep. Although in this case, you're just sitting there.
You're just sitting there putting your money in. And it always boggled my mind. Who determines what horse is going to win?
I don't know how it works.
Is it computer? I mean, how
it can't be that sophisticated. I don't know. I don't know.
Seriously, because they give odds on a horse and then, you'd bet. And, how would... it'd be so easy to fix that, right?
Yeah, right.
Just like, nobody bet on number 4. Well, let's let that win.
I have no idea, because sometimes the long shots would win. Well, Sigma Derby you don't see around much anymore. I think there are only 2 machines in Las Vegas. I think MGM has one, and the new D downtown. I think they refurbished one, but it used to be pretty much any casino you go to, there'd be one of them in there.
At least,
right?
Yeah. The thing about that game too, as stupid as it is, it was fun to sit there and watch those stupid horses, and especially if you're drunk or something, you know.
It's definitely popular now. A lot of people talk about it. I don't know, either for nostalgic reasons or they like it ironically, or they actually enjoy sitting there drunk, rooting for the horse to go around.
Mechanical horse.
Yeah. Another game, and they don't have this game anymore, and there's a reason why, is Flip It. Those of you old enough might remember that it was a game where you would take a quarter and put it in this machine, and it would shoot your quarter into the machine, into these piles of other quarters. And then there were these like croupier sticks, these mechanical sticks that were like pushing the quarters toward you. And so if you could get your quarter to flip up to like a big pile and have it move a little way, some of these sticks would push a big stack of quarters out, and it would fall
over
down,
the edge,
and you'd collect them.
Yeah, so you could put 1 quarter in and get 4 quarters out.
Right. So, you'd never make a huge.
No.
Some of these machines had little like baskets, like basketball baskets,
right.
where
and
if you
it
could
went
get
in the basket, you got a bonus.
Yeah, something, but I never saw anything get even close to that.
Well, they don't have this in Vegas anymore, of course.
Because no coins anymore at the machine,
coins,
right? Nobody
exactly.
has, right.
But they do have this game at Chuck E. Cheese's.
Yeah, it's here we were talking about, indoctrinating children into the life of gambling.
At Chuck E. Cheese's. They got the little baskets, you hit it in and you get coins out. I mean, it's the tokens.
It's tokens, right? It's not cash.
Yeah.
But it works exactly the same.
Right.
That's where they all move.
Oh, my daughters love that.
It could be the exact same machines, right?
Maybe,
Because,
maybe.
Yeah.
I'll have to look up and find out who invented that. He probably like moved them out of casinos into Chuck E. Cheese's all over America.
Another game, and people may not be very familiar with this. It's a game called Nines Up. And it was kind of a cross between like Pai Gow poker and baccarat.
Yeah.
You'd get 4 cards, and you had to separate them into 2 hands of 2 cards each. And you'd either make a pair in a hand, or you'd try to get as close to 9 as you could in a hand.
Right.
So pairs were the best.
Yeah, pair of aces would be the best.
All the way down to a pair of deuces. And then the best after that would be a 2 cards making a 9 or 2 cards making an 8.
Right.
And you'd have to make 2 hands. And the higher hand you'd put, closest to you, and your lower hand you'd put further away from you. And then the dealer would set their hand too.
Right, and the lowest possible hand would be a 0, like a queen and a jack.
Right, that makes a 0.
It's not a pair, and it's a 0.
And there were times when you'd have to play a 0.
Right, if you had 2 8s and, that's not a good example.
No.
Because you'd play 8 8.
Well, let's say you just had 10 jack queen king.
Yeah,
you got 2 zeros. 0
0 0 0.
That's all you can do, right? But so the dealer would do the same, and then you'd compare your high hand to the dealers. You'd compare your low hand to the dealers, and if you beat the dealer on both of them, you'd win. If you lost on both of them, you'd lose, and if you won on one and lost on the other, it was a push. It was like Pai Gow poker.
Right.
It was as simple as that. And the only place I ever saw it, we were working for our casino company, and they had these flyers from the Holiday Casino in Las Vegas. It's where Harrah's is now. It used to be a Holiday Inn.
Holiday Inn, right.
Holiday Casino. And they, in the little booklet on how to gamble, it said Nines Up. And we'd never heard of it before. And so I eventually went and played it. It was the only time I played. There were plenty of people at the table.
Sure.
But then never again.
Yeah, we play it at our home game, actually. I mean, we haven't in quite a few years, but we used to play it regularly.
Yeah?
We'd deal it regularly. A dealer would call it, and he'd play a round. You know, he'd deal, if there were 7 players, he'd deal 7 times.
Yeah.
And you could bet against him. So you're playing against one person, and he would set some limit like, oh, you know, bet up to $1 or bet up to $2.
Yeah.
And you'd play against him. And it was fun. Nine's Up's a good game.
It's fun because sometimes it's like, okay, you have a lot of choices of how to make the two cards.
Sure.
I don't want to talk about the strategy too much because, again, it's a dead game. But when you would play, if you and the dealer had cards that totaled the same number, then you'd look at the individual cards. So, for example, if you had like ace 8 in one hand and the dealer had 7 deuce, you both have 9, but your hand wins because it has an ace.
Because the ace is higher than the
With 7. One huge exception that bit me in the butt when I was actually playing in a casino.
I remember this. Yeah, I remember this.
A dealer's 0 always beats a player's 0.
Right.
Even if you have higher cards.
They take all zeros.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway.
Probably pushes the edge in their favor.
Yeah. And what did I say? If you had exactly the same 2 cards, like if you both had ace 8, then the dealer won.
Right. They
had that
pushes.
edge. Yeah. Anyway, that was 9's Up. Another game that I think is a dying game, and I'm sure you'd agree.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Is Caribbean Stud Poker. Now, this game came onto the scene, must have been in the 90s, maybe early 90s, mid-90s.
I'd say early 90s. Yeah.
Early 90s.
Maybe even late 80s, Mark.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because I think I remember playing that when I was in school in the mid-80s up in Tahoe, Reno.
Okay. Well, it kind of sprung on this. It really was one of the first table games in a long time to become very popular. You know, there were always kind of goofy table games that would come along and not do very well, but Caribbean Stud really made a splash. But in recent years, it has really disappeared.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's a huge house edge.
It's a good house edge. Yep, that's one.
And that's part of the reason. I think the reason it initially made such a huge thing is because it typically has a jackpot associated with it.
Right.
And the jackpots would get high. People like the fact that, oh, you know, if I got this, I could win $100,000.
Right. If you got like a straight flush or something.
Right. And I think that was the huge draw.
Basically, how it would work is you'd make a bet. You'd get a 5-card poker hand. You'd be playing only against the dealer. Every player would be playing against the dealer. And you'd get this 5-card poker hand after you'd made your bet. And then after you looked at your cards, if you thought you had a hand that could win, you'd have to make an additional bet. The first bet was called an ante. You'd have to make an additional bet that was exactly twice your ante. And then after everybody had made their decision, the cards were flipped over. And if you beat the dealer, you would win your ante bet, and the other bet, the doubled bet, would win depending on how good your hand was. You'd get like even money for a pair, and you'd get like 2-to-1 for two pair, and all the way up to 100-to-1 for a royal flush. You'd get different amounts.
Right.
But here's the problem. I think this is why the game died. You would only win that bet if the dealer qualified.
Right.
What does that mean? The dealer had to have ace, king, or better to qualify. So if the dealer didn't have ace, king, or better, just had like a queen high, and you had a straight flush, you'd win your ante bet and you wouldn't get anything for the double bet.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Nothing. So it'd be a wasted hand.
Yeah. Now, if you were there, they had like side bets on the table that you could make to cover yourself in those situations. Mm-hmm. But as far as the basic game went, you didn't get anything. There was a possibility that you could get one of the greatest hands of your life and not win any money.
Yeah, which I remember many times getting like a full house or a straight or something, and they don't qualify, and you're just like, it's such a terrible feeling.
Yeah.
Because then the next hand, you're getting like, queen high and you're losing.
You're losing.
Right?
And I think a lot of the newer games have compensated for that, like Mississippi Stud and even 3-card poker,
right,
where you're going to win something even if in Mississippi Stud, there is no dealer qualification. It's almost like playing video poker. But I think they've changed it so that you're not in a situation where you get a good hand and you get nothing for it.
Right. And I think Ace King was too high.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a 5-card hand.
Yeah.
Ace King, that's pretty high.
Yeah. There are plenty of times when you're not going to do that.
If it was King high, might be a lot different.
Yeah.
Right.
Who knows though? Then maybe it becomes a player advantage. You'd have to change the rules around.
Yeah, I'd like to see the math on that, though. I bet it's still a house edge.
It could be
big time.
But Caribbean Stud it's much harder to find than it used to be. And then for another game, we were talking when you were on the way over here. It's the big wheel, or call it the Wheel of Fortune. That's not really what it's called, but what big six?
Big six or something like that.
Yeah, they call it that sometimes, right?
Yeah, it's just a huge wheel.
It's just that big wheel that you've probably seen in the casino, where it's a big spinner, and you can make wagers on this layout based on numbers on the wheel.
Yeah, there's more ones on there than anything
else. Right, 1 to 1, 2 to 1,
20 to 1. There'll be 120 to 1.
Yeah, something like that.
I just thought of another game too.
All right.
Now the wheel game, I'll add this. They still do have that at some places, and it's funny. It's usually at a big casino like not Mirage, but I saw it at Bellagio, I think.
Oh, right.
Had one. They've got a ton of room. And it'll usually be in some corner somewhere, and they'll just have the wheel, and no one ever plays it.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, too, is that you never, when we've gone by it, we'll go, oh, hold on a second, and throw down $10 or $20 for one spin. But nobody's sitting there playing for hours, right? It's more of a, here, let's try our luck on the 20 to 1 or whatever.
And it takes a dealer up. Somebody has to stand there and monitor it. The other game I thought, just occurred to me, Chuck-a-Luck.
Oh, Chuck-a-Luck, sure, yeah.
You haven't seen that?
No, not in a long time. Chuck-a-Luck was a game with 3 dice in a cage that they'd spin, and it was very simple. There were, on the layout, you could bet on different combinations coming up. Yeah. 1 die would be a 6. There's a place to bet.
There were many bets, kind of like a roulette wheel, where it could be so 3 dice, 6 times 3, 18. It'd be 12 and over or something, or under, you could bet over under numbers, and there was a lot of combinations,
all sorts of things to do that. Yeah,
3 threes coming up.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you never see that. I can't remember the last time I saw a Chuck-a-Luck game in Las Vegas, because I'm trying to remember back.
I don't even know if I saw one in the 90s. That was probably an 80s thing.
Maybe the old Marina. Years ago, we stayed at Marina. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
a long time ago. I want to say they had a Chuck-a-Luck, but it's been a while.
Yeah, that was, talk about a mindless game. It's basically just put your money down. And the dealer, dealing Chuck-a-Luck was, you flip the cage over and the dice would just drop. They just bounced around a little and fell.
I can't think of anything more depressing than dealing Chuck-a-Luck at the Marina in the 1980s.
If you're listening out there and you happen to be a dealer who dealt Chuck-a-Luck in the 1980s, please email me.
Oh man. Well, if anybody out there has any other games, dead or dying games, that you could tell us about, because we were kind of racking our brains. I didn't do a lot of research for this. No. I was just trying to think of things.
Just things we thought.
But if anybody out there has some suggestions, we'll talk about them in the future, dead or dying games. Email us.
I mentioned that, I think Casino War's kind of dying. You don't see it much anymore. You used to see a few more tables of it.
Yeah, I guess. I never played it.
It'll be gone in a few years, I think.
It
used to be a game for, you'd see on the table, 4 21-year-old guys
playing Casino War,
because they were unfamiliar with casino games, and maybe it's their first trip or something, and they sit there, and it's fun, have a little fun playing it. But now guys that age know how to play, Hold'em. They're sitting in the poker lounge.
Yeah,
so.
That's true. Casino War could be a game.
It could be on the way out.
Certainly, I don't know of casinos that have more than one.
Oh gosh,
maybe 2 tables.
Oh, I don't know of one that has 2.
Yeah.
You'll see one here or there.
Yeah. Anyway, if you've got a dead or dying game you'd like to tell us about, email us. Email us anyway with any kind of comment or question that you have. Again, our email address is youcanbetonthat@gmail.com. You can visit our website. It's youcanbetonthat.com, where you can check out our show notes and leave comments. Also, follow us on Twitter. We always tweet when we're on our way to a casino or we're at a casino. Mike, are we going to the World Series of Poker?
Boy, I don't know.
It's starting next week.
I know. I've got so much going on too.
I'm busy too.
That's the problem. It's time. I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, you took your under 10-year-old son to a casino, and my wife and I are thinking about taking our daughters to Lake Tahoe and staying at Harrah's up there, over a weekend. And
Lake Tahoe is nice.
Yeah,
that's
Lake
nice
Tahoe
for kids.
is nice. I don't know if I want them staying in the hotel casino, in the hotel and coming down for breakfast in the buffet.
Nothing wrong with that. So anyway, follow us on Twitter. We're at You Can Bet On That. We always tweet again when we're at the casino. And like us on Facebook. We're at facebook.com/You Can Bet On That. Also over at iTunes, give us a good review. Maybe we can get some more listeners. Mike, anything else?
No, I don't think anything. Oh, we got a poker tournament this weekend.
Yeah.
Our good friend Dave Hansen's hosting another big poker tournament.
Yep.
So
we're going to go to that. We'll talk about that on the next episode.
I'm sure there'll be some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Lyndon, if you're listening, play smarter. We talked about you before.
That's right. All right. That's it, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Good night.